What? What's that? I use that for refreshing. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, if you want to, go ahead.
So Clyde helped us fix, off the record,
Yeah,
Clyde helped us fix the sound issue.
yeah, okay, good. So this can also be off the record. Is there any chance we're going to be done this morning or today with your witnesses?
With our case in chief, no.
Okay. All right. I mean, I was told it was going to be done halfway through today. Is there a way it can be done today?
We've already cut some witnesses out, Your Honor,
All right.
from our list.
Just see if there's ways to speed this up because it's
Yes.
taking longer than I've been informed. Are we waiting for Mr. Burdick or can we? Oh, there you go. Here he comes. Okay. Can we bring the jury in? Yes, from the state.
Yes, Your Honor.
Jury in. right, everybody have a seat. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I know I've been promising 4, but maybe we're gonna go to about 4:30 today so we can see how far we can get this done today. We'll see how it's going. All right, I think we are investigating. Leinfelder is back up on the stand. I think we're just gonna continue to show the remaining, well, whatever part of the video. Go ahead.
That's correct, Your Honor. We are queuing up the video for 4249.
With the camera system, you earlier said that you had to turn them off.
I turned them off when I was coming home.
Okay.
So he didn't wake up knowing I was coming home.
Okay. And how do you do? How is that easy to do? Is it just a click?
Button
Just says off on.
says disable or something.
Yeah, it just turns them off. Then it won't alert his phone because he gets as those alerts you're getting. He was getting the same ones every time there's a motion. You both get alerted to it. Okay, so you turn those off, and that's just a disable.
One little button. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We turn mine and off all the time.
Okay. We want to get the text messages and stuff
Okay.
off of your phone. To do that, I got to just have a sheet, it's a consent form that allows us to do that. So, and you give us verbal permission, but they always make us do this. So I'm going to get a form for that, and then I'll be right back. But I'm still, they're trying to, I think they were close to being able to use the email and password to get into the camera system. So I'm just waiting on that. But I'm good. You good? Bathroom? Anything? Water? You're still good. Good. So you put your name there. Now I get my name there. This is complete search is basically, this is the generic boilerplate work. List the devices, going to read that. List of devices and other related materials stored media for the purpose of examination. And today's date is
23rd.
23rd. Yeah, time is 10:19. I guess it's not on there. Just 19. Always. Brand name.
I don't even know what model I have.
Serial number. Put in what's the phone number for the phone? And you already gave me write the passcode. Put passcode above that. I'll see if I can get the model and serial number quick. What kind of case is on that? Life case or?
I don't even know.
It's an Apple iPhone, right? You don't know what number?
I don't think it's a 10 because I didn't like the 10. I think Mark and I both had 8 pluses.
Okay.
I think.
All right. And put just above there, just put
Like model.
Model, yeah.
Hang tight.
Oh, baby. God.
So when you were at Sloopy's, everything was fine.
Perfect.
And
Perfect. Mark and I got along so good. Everything was perfect.
have you had disagreements, arguments like this in the past, like a jealousy thing about other guys and stuff like that? Did that happen often? And I don't want to, we're not speaking ill of anybody, but we just need,
Just when he drinks.
okay.
And I didn't even think he was drinking that much, so I can't even believe it.
Was he just drinking the ultras?
The biggest, Steve Cundy, we hadn't seen, no, Scott Cundy, it was Scott Cundy. We hadn't seen Scott Cundy for a long time, so Scott came over and talked to us, and he's like, hey, you remember, whatever the guy's name is, Terry LaFleur? And I said, yeah. He goes, of course you do. And I go, what does that mean? You know, because Mark was sitting right there, and I was like, well, what does that mean? I said, I've never been with Mark or Terry before. And he's like, oh, he's coming here. So then when he came, Mark's like, oh, well, Scott called him and told him to come to see you. I said, and he brought his wife. Does that make sense to you, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
So then when we were on the phone at one point, because I had to take, of course I didn't think of this either, when I took Adam's phone, Adam's like, he's calling me again, and I just took it. And he's like, I'm going to come back, and I am going to punch some people out. And I said, do you want me to go over by Terry right now, and you can ask him if he came here to see me? So I walked over, he said, yes. He goes, and I'm going to come and punch his face off. You know, like talking like that. And I said, Terry, I said, my husband thinks that you came here to see me. He goes, that's crazy. And I said, Mark, he said, that's crazy. So, of course, Mark didn't believe it. He was sitting with his wife at a totally different area. We weren't even near them. I was with my friends.
And you had you knew Terry from back in the day, kind of.
Probably like I knew you, like I knew of you.
Yeah, but not really weren't ever.
Right.
And why do you think Scott thought it would be a big?
Just, and I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he's like, well, you know, chapter 2 days or whatever, he bartended there. I didn't know he bartended there. Chapter 2 had so many bartenders. I didn't know that. But so that's what he was associating it with. Lori Gamuki with Ghost Chapter 2.
So this would happen when Mark would drink. Was Mark a big drinker? I mean, did he drink often, or what?
Mark
kind of
works in the
describe-
cities.
Yeah.
So Mark works in the cities Monday through Thursday, comes home maybe Thursday or Friday, and then then in the weekends we just spend time together like nonstop. We are inseparable in the weekends because we love to be together, you know. He's such a good guy.
one somewhere around here. And so these are there you go.
We had so much fun together. That was her whole thing. He's like, I've never been with anybody where we've had so much fun.
So you got married, how long have you just got married in December, you told me, and then how long have you been together prior to that?
Since 2016.
Okay, so you've been together quite some time. So when he came back, I mean, do you think when he was up in Minneapolis, he was drinking a lot, or
No, he didn't drink at all during the
always
week.
working?
Never.
When he came back, you guys just kind of describe your drinking habits now. That when you got home, out to dinner, have a couple drinks with friends, that kind of stuff.
And then go home.
Yeah.
Normally we would, or just stay home and have like drinks in the hot tub, and we'd catch up on all of our TV shows.
Sure.
Like that's always what we did.
Okay. All right. And the times that he would get in arguments with you, was there other times that he got physical with you?
Yeah, I mean, like pushing. He's never like punched me or anything.
No.
He's never done that. Just like pushing and stuff. He just gets so angry. He gets so angry.
Is it different things that he gets angry about, or is it other?
So he always explained it, and so that I could try and understand it. He said, if I ever feel like someone's trying to take you from me, or I'm going to lose you, he goes, I can't control what happens in my mind. He says, I can't help it. I can't help it. So when that happens, we just have to deal with it. And I'm just like, I just can't even believe that he makes these things up in his head, that it just gets in his head and he can't let it go.
After an episode like that would happen, where he'd go, like the next day, how was his behavior? Would he?
Always sorry. He was always sorry. He texted me immediately. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't respond because I was so pissed off.
Yeah.
I'm like, of course you're sorry, is what I was thinking in my head.
The incident last night was on a scale of other incidents. Would that be as far as the physical aspect?
He's always told me, he said, I would never ever hurt you, ever. So I couldn't even believe it. And I'm not even gonna lie, I made a scene outside. I'm like, you know what? You put your hands on me, I'm done. I'm never ever. I'm done with you. You just go live your life. Go. And that's when he stormed off or took the truck and just peeled away.
Were your friends anybody outside on that? Your friends saw that too? Would that have been Hannah and Adam and
there was people outside smoking.
Okay.
Hannah's dad was out there, so Hannah's dad saw it all too. Bob Klinsky. It's just so sad because it's the first time her parents had met him, and he made such a horrible impression on them.
Adam was there too.
Yep.
Was Scott out there, or
at that time, I don't know.
Terry or anybody else that you would have known that was with you guys? So.
Yeah. There was people.
Hannah, Adam, and then Hannah's dad, Bob.
Bob was definitely out there.
Would have saw that.
Because I remember walking up to Hannah and I'm like, did you just see him peel out? She's like, I just got out here. So I do remember her saying that.
Okay.
But when he did it, and there's a parking lot. So he tore off in the parking lot, and then when he got onto Ward Avenue, then he tore off again. But there could have been people parked or walking or just anywhere. He just got so angry.
So he peeled off after that happened.
And I said to them, you know what? I know he's going to come back. He will come back, so don't worry about it.
Had you guys left the parking lot when this happened? Because you were getting in the truck and you left, and then
we left, and then I had him bring me back because he was not sane at the time.
Okay, and that's when he was grabbed, and he grabbed you by the neck. Mm-hmm. How far down do you think Ward Avenue?
Honestly, I can't tell you. Okay. I can't even remember where we were. I was just in awe. I just couldn't even believe it.
Okay, so he came back and dropped you off there.
Tore off.
And you had conversation. That's when Hannah just walked out, and
but her dad was outside.
Her dad was outside when. Did you have conversations with Hannah and Adam about what happened?
Oh yeah, we had plenty of texts and them phone calling me in. Because they were worried. They're like, I'll come get you. I said, I'm fine. I'm going to sleep in the truck. I'm fine.
We're back, when you're in the dive, I'm sorry, you kind of jumped ahead. When you're at the dive, so they were outside, Bob, and it sounds like Hannah just had come out, so she didn't see this, but when you got back into did you have conversation with them about what had just occurred?
Mhm.
Okay. So then at some point, no, he's got your phone at this point.
He has my phone and I have his because I always carry our phones in that outside pocket.
Okay.
He's like, give me my phone. And when he said that, because he always takes when he gets mad at me, he takes my phone away from me. So when he said, give me my phone, I assumed he wanted my phone. So I gave him my phone, but I still had his.
Okay.
So that's why he was calling from my phone to Adam Stevens. And I had 4 calls in my.
Did Adam have any conversations, with him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He did. I don't know what.
Does Adam, they live in La Crosse?
Winona.
They live in Winona.
They came just to say goodbye to us, to have dinner and say goodbye since we were leaving.
So eventually, Mark comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Did you talk to him before he came back, or anything like
I
that?
took the phone and I said, leave Stevens out of this. Quit calling Stevens.
Okay.
Because Stevens kept going, he's calling again, pushing it to me.
So then he came back. Did you have a conversation with him when he came back?
He was by the back door, which our table was by I don't know if you call it the front door or the back door, wherever you walk in. And not by the bathroom, it's way over there, but so front door we'll call it. And he's like, get outside now. And Hannah's like, and he kept talking like that. And Hannah's like, just go do it now. Just go do it. So he stops. So I start to come over there and I start to walk over there and he said something and I can't remember. And I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not going outside with him. So then I did.
You remember what he said?
I don't remember what he said, but
Something enough to say. So that made him more angry. But
then he calmed down after that because after that he went to the other side of the bar because I saw him getting a drink and then all of a sudden I turned around like, oh my God, Adam, where is he? Where is he? He was, I don't know. He was always over at the other side of the bar. So I'm like, okay. So then that's when he sent me the text. And then Adam had another drink. And then
that's
after
what
I
he
got
said.
that text.
I'm sorry, text. That's okay. I got you.
And so Adam had a drink, and then after that they were going to leave, and I got the text. I said, you guys, I'm fine. I know he's fine now. And I walked over there, and we try not to make a scene. So I acted like nothing was wrong in front of his friend.
Do you know who his friend was? Okay. Doesn't matter.
Somebody he hadn't seen for a long time.
Okay.
But it's this guy, he went on and on. He's like, I've never been this happy in my entire life. Like, she's just, I'm on top of the moon. Like, he just went on and on. And this guy's like, holy shit. He's like, you're the real deal. Like, he kept saying, you guys have it going on. And I know we had it going on. I mean, I know we were really good. It's just when he got so angry that he just can't control himself. And I don't know why. And I said, well, you need to figure that out. But
so at some point you're going to leave the dive. And was there talk about where you're going to go at that point, or just how did you decide to leave? Did Mark say let's go, or you say let's go, or kind of tell me about that?
I'm assuming I said let's go.
Okay.
The guy that he was talking to him and his wife took him too. So I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's just get out of here. But driving home, then he starts all over again. I'm like, you need to get over what's in your head. I said, you're crazy, you're cuckoo. Like, honestly, I did say that because he just makes shit up.
Is there any? So you went from the dive right directly to home. You didn't stop anywhere else. Arguing the whole way, or did it stop at one point?
I don't think so. I think we argued the whole way.
Any more physical?
Well, so I guess 2 things I forgot. So when I was at the dive and I was gonna leave because he said he was gonna meet me outside. I'm like, oh, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just gonna leave on my own because I think he started being a jerk again. I'm like, seriously, are we gonna go through this again? He's like, nope, I'm done. So then he comes out and he hits the window on the truck, and I'm like, I said, seriously. And then when we got home, he was inside, and when I was gonna leave, so why was he inside? But I don't know, but he runs out and like coming out like this. And then I'm like, no, Mark, and I shut the door. And then he's like, well, I'm
In
gonna
the
get my
driver's
stuff.
side door?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna get my stuff in. And I said, take all your stuff that you want, take it.
So when you got home, you came in the long driveway at the house, correct? I guess
The second driveway.
the second driveway.
The M driveway.
Okay.
The
Yep.
M and W, yeah.
Okay. You came in there and he got out and went inside?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I remember him coming out like that, but I don't know.
Okay. And you just got out and went into there.
Well, when he was coming out, I was already in the driver's side, or already in the driver's
Yeah.
seat.
So you got out when you pulled in, he went inside, you didn't go, did you go inside?
I don't think I went inside at all.
Okay. So then you got in the driver's side and then that's when he came out and was gonna hit the window again. Okay. And then he said, I'm gonna get my stuff out. And okay, go from there. So I was wondering, I was trying to,
Go ahead, get your stuff out. So he was like getting everything out, and I don't remember what happened again, but then he got all pissed off again, like he was gonna come get me. So then I'm just like, F this, and I was out. I'm gone.
so then he went from the passenger side where he was getting some of his stuff out. He said there was a can koozie, something about
Yeah,
that.
I saw the guy took it down.
Yeah, because they said there was a can koozie out there.
So what he did is he said, here you go, you can keep this because this is all you have, and I flipped it out the window like this because his door was open, so I just flipped it out.
Okay. All right. So he's standing at the passenger side door getting some of his stuff, still angry. You flipped that back at him or out the door.
No, that wasn't, he didn't even know. He was like,
Yeah, not at him, but
like
you
over
pushed,
it going,
you know,
he didn't even probably know I did that.
Sure. So at some point he leaves the passenger side of the vehicle and comes around the front of the vehicle.
Mhm.
Okay, and he
He was running for me, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, I'm surprised he didn't just go through, you know?
Okay.
Like, he could, but
okay. So, and he gets around the front of the vehicle and he's coming towards the,
yeah, to my door.
okay.
And then I was like, F this, and I took off.
So he was right at your door?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was he able to open your door?
I don't know. I don't remember that part.
Okay.
I don't know.
So what,
But at one point, I don't know if it was that point, I'm just like, I hope the cameras are on. Like, I yelled at him. I hope the cameras are on. But I don't know if they were not. I hope they were.
okay. Was your window down or up at that point?
Oh, up.
Okay. Did he hit the window or anything when you were,
Mm-mm.
so when he gets around the front, you put it in drive and you're
Right, when he got over to my side of the door.
you're
Because
standing-
I didn't, it was so dark out, I couldn't figure out where the lock was, but even if I would have locked it, he probably would have punched the window. So it's probably a good thing that I didn't lock it, but either way.
So did he reach for the handle, do you recall?
I don't, it was A, it was dark, B, it was so fast, C, all I wanted to do was just get away so that everybody was gonna be fine.
Okay. So you pull away from where the truck was parked. He was standing there. What did he do as you were pulling away?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no
You
idea.
were
What
just-
I'm assuming is he ran after me.
Okay. Why are you assuming that?
Well, because of where he was.
Okay, I got you. But you didn't notice him there or anything like that?
Oh my God, no.
Well, no, I'm just, you didn't notice him running after you.
No, but I
laying
like
in the
literally,
snow, so-
there was a car that passed the driveway, so I was like, oh God, when I was trying to get out, because the car's probably looking at me like, what the hell?
W or,
It was right off of W, it's a subdevelopment off of W.
okay. And that's on the left side going back into Holman. So is there after the big S turn, that subdivision, are you thinking?
I think it was,
Or is it, because there's a long straightaway
I think it was
before they kind of come up that little gradual hill and there's a little subdivision.
Sorry, I think it skipped forward there.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Investigator Leinfelder, do you recall about where it was?
I thought the timestamp was at 10:39 when it shut off.
Judge, can we just put on the record that the video picture became blurry for a moment or two, and then the screen went dark, and when counsel for the state tried to restart it, it appeared to have skipped forward some amount of time.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't normally go blurry, right? That just was, oh, it does, okay. That was your computer. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Some of it wasn't.
That's where it says I didn't lock it or anything. She's talking about the door at that point. You just were. And I just skipped for, I don't know.
But this is going to be a repeat. I'm sorry.
Starting it at.
We're starting it back up at 105.43. It should not be too repetitive.
Why are you assuming that?
Well, because of where he was.
Okay, I got you. But you didn't notice him there or anything like that?
Oh my God, no.
Well, no, I'm just, you didn't notice him running after you.
No, but
Not
I
laying
like
in the snow or
literally,
anything.
there was a car that passed the driveway, so I was like, oh God, when I was trying to get out, because the car's probably looking at me like, what the hell?
W or,
It was right off of W, it's a subdevelopment off of W.
okay. And that's on the left side going back into Holman. So is there after the big S turn, that subdivision, are you thinking?
I think it was,
Or is it, because they're long straightaway
I think it was
before they kind of come up that little gradual hill and there's a little subdivision. I guess not little.
It wasn't, it's new, all I can say is it's newer because, it's newer because there were newer homes and there wasn't very many of them that I recall.
So that was off to the left.
Off to the left.
And that's when truck pulls into the driveway, you're kind of like startled because what are the odds? And then you start making phone calls to, or did you drive to Comfort Inn?
No, I went online and I
Yeah.
went to hotels near me, and Comfort Inn said that they had a room available. So I just went there. I didn't book it online,
Okay.
and I got there. I was behind some other guy, some couple, because she was coming from the bathroom or something.
That's built by Woodman's.
Mm-mm.
Well, where's?
No, that's over by Festival Foods. I didn't even realize it was there.
Oh, yeah,
By
okay, over.
Ocean
yeah,
Sushi. No,
yeah.
not Ocean. That's
Okay.
Winona, whatever that place is.
Yeah,
That place is so good.
so that's went to that one, and they didn't have a room.
Mhm.
You
So
went,
then I sat in their parking lot, and I went online to find a place, and then I found a place, and I booked the room. And when I got there, he said, no, we don't have any vacancy. And I said, no, I have this text message right here. And he's like, no, you booked a room for Saturday night. And I went, oh my God. And he goes, I said, do you want your cancellation number? And I said, yes. And I put it right in the text so that I wasn't going to get charged for the room. And I didn't stay at.
that was the payment by Woodman's,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Yep. So then you went to Woodman's.
And right when you walk in the door, there's a restaurant. I had no idea. I was like, yes.
She went in the big front doors,
Mhm.
or the big front or the front doors. And then you went back out to your truck, and
Yep, and then I think that Hannah kept texting me, so I texted her back. And then finally, then it said, this is Adam now, because then Adam took her phone. He's like, this is Adam. I don't remember what he said, like, come back to Winona or something like that. I don't even know what he said. But I remember him saying, I remember us reading, this is Adam now.
okay. And that was on your phone you had now.
My phone,
Okay.
the phone that you guys have.
Okay. All right. So you decided to just sit in the parking lot, kind of around the backside of Woodman's?
Right
Right
where
over
I
there.
walked in. Right where I walked
Right-
in, I
right
was
on
parked
Woodman.
there.
Okay, and that's where you stayed?
No, that's when I was on my phone with
Yeah.
Hannah and
So then
after that, I said, you guys, I'm fine. I'm just going to stay in the truck. And then I went back over to that one spot because I noticed it when I was coming out. And I was like, oh, I could just park there. But I'm like, I got it.
So if you're coming out of where you were parked out of the main entrance, you're gonna come out, the little gas station of Woodman's is right
Yeah.
here. You're gonna turn left to go by Arby's, and it's just right on that corner, right there. Okay.
Right across from the hotel.
Okay. And you slept there for,
Well, I don't even know that I slept, but I was there
You were
a
there.
couple hours probably. And then maybe I did because I woke up and my feet were freezing. So I was like, okay, it's freezing cold in here. But then when I turned the car on to turn the heat on, all the lights are super bright and I couldn't figure out how to turn them off. So then I didn't want to be sitting there with my car started and then have somebody come up, and so then I'm just like, this is stupid, and I just went home.
At some point, I think you told one of that you turned the cameras off because you didn't want to wake up Mark on the way
I did
home.
do that.
Okay.
I did that when I was actually driving, which was not a smart idea at all. I mean, it's easy
And that was
to...
after you had kind of, you stayed at the lot and didn't really sleep, but kind of slept there on your way back home. That's when you hit the disable the cameras.
Correct.
Okay. And you pulled into the driveway, looked like you used the first driveway?
I sure did.
But where you got home last night, this morning, was right where the truck is
Yep,
now.
I never touched it.
That's right, okay. So then you went in and slept on the couch
Well, I went to the couch, and that wasn't comfortable at all.
before you go there. So you walked in and you saw his shoes?
No, well, I walked in, and our back door was unlocked, because he told me, he's like, you're going to leave, and I'm going to change the locks, is what he said, because he's notorious for that. And I'm like, whatever. So when I got home, I didn't expect to actually be able to get in. I would have just left the truck running at home and stayed in there until Mark woke up, is what I was thinking. But when I went to get my key out or whatever, it was open. The door was unlocked. I'm like, that's weird. And the dining room light was on. So I'm like, why is the dining room light on? So I turned that off, and then I just went and laid on the couch, just assuming he was sleeping. His shoes are there. Dining room lights on. I didn't know why that was there, but they're on.
Okay.
And then I'm like, okay, this isn't even comfortable. Like, my back hurt. Like, the back seats are like, they do this like thing, and they're hard. It was not comfortable at all. So then I'm like, I just want a bed. But I didn't want to go to the bed across the room from us because our door was open, so I didn't want to wake him up. So I snuck upstairs, which I've never slept upstairs before in my life. And I just went up there to sleep so that I could just try and get some sleep. And I probably slept for 2 hours.
Okay. You get up. Do you remember what time you got in?
Well, so I got up and I went to the bathroom, and then I went into the room, and then the cameras caught all this, because then when I went outside, when I went to go see if the thing was there, that would tell you what time I got up.
Okay.
I would say I got up at like 6:30, something like that.
So on the way home, you disabled the cameras.
So he didn't know that I was coming
Okay.
home.
And at what point did those get back on? Do those automatically go on, or how does that?
Nope, I enabled it once I got home, so that there's no movement then.
Okay, all right. So you got him when you turn it back on. You didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I understand your rationale. You don't want his phone to go buzz like it has been,
Right.
to wake him up and saying, hey, now I'm home. We're going to start this all over again.
Right.
So you disabled it, you got home, and then you turned them back, enabled them back on.
Right.
Okay. All right. So you get up. You go back upstairs to.
I had to go back upstairs. Well, okay.
And you're kind of like, okay, I'm just going to get the apology, or.
I didn't go back upstairs. I had to go in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
I walked back to our bedroom because I was going to wake him up and
Okay.
wait to hear.
Okay, yeah. When I say upstairs, I'm sorry, I keep thinking the bedroom's upstairs and it's on the main level. So,
Yeah.
that's my
The
correction.
bedroom I stayed in was upstairs.
Was upstairs. Your main bedroom is on the main level there. Okay, now I got you. And you saw that he wasn't there. Did you look around the rest of the house, or what?
Yeah, well, like, because I'm like, well, where the hell is he?
Mm-hmm.
I even went to our closet because I thought, you know, what, I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like just trying to find him. I'm like, did he, you know, I don't know. Did he leave? So my impression that if the true Mark Phillips that I know, that he would have gotten in his car and went and found his buddies and partied the rest of the night.
Did you think he was really intoxicated during the night when you were at the dive, or
No.
I mean, nothing like really, but you can tell
No.
when somebody's like,
No,
what his normal drinking habits is and how he acts when he's that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we've seen him when he's
Right.
over drank and how he acts. What would you label his?
I don't even know how he got drunk. Like, I mean, I don't.
He didn't appear drunk to you.
Well, I mean, he wasn't sober, but
But
he
he
wasn't over.
He wasn't falling down
Oh,
drunk and
God, no.
swearing.
Not
You could
at
understand
all.
and things like that.
Not
He was
at
just
all.
kind of his he had a buzz on, for lack of better terms,
And then, well, he went by the bartender, who I think was the owner, and he was teasing him, saying he was Johnny Wad, which he isn't, but he kind of looks like him. So they took a picture, and he's like, you gotta get a bottle of Polish. And I said, let me take your picture, you guys. So I took their picture, and we posted, and we tagged Wad in it. But then he ended up doing a shot at Polish, which we marked the shots, that's bad, and he can't do it for his diabetes also, because there's so much sugar in it. So when he did a shot, when the guy put it down, he looked at me, he's like, I'm not going to do it or whatever. And then he was drinking, and I was like, what the hell? And then I'm like, oh, God, here we go again, because this is going to get ugly again. Shots are not good.
Okay. So back, you're looking for him in the house.
Mm-hmm.
You don't find him, you go where?
To the garage. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to go see. He must have taken off last night.
And that's to,
He told me when he was taking his stuff out that he was going to go to HD. So I assumed, because he's like, and you know what? I'm going to use these 2 bar chips that I have tonight. I'm like, you go ahead, Mark.
HD?
Tavern.
Where's that?
HD Tavern, it's a new tavern. It's on Home and Drive. That's why it's HD. It's right across the Middle Festival.
Right. I can't picture where it would be. Okay. Doesn't make any difference. So you go outside, check the car's there.
I didn't even get to the garage. I got like 1 step from the handle.
Okay.
And I don't even know why, but I happened to look. Oh, I think I just caught something, because it just looked like a big black blob, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I just couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. Oh my God, it was awful. It was awful.
What did you do then?
I ran to him first, I'm sure. And then I ran and got my phone upstairs. I had to go all the way upstairs to get my phone, and then I brought it back downstairs and I called. And then I just kept it down there, and I had to talk to her until they showed up.
Okay. Do you recall what you said to 911, or how you described what was going on?
I said that I found my husband in the snowbank, and she wanted to know if I wanted to do like CPR or something like that. And she kept telling me I had to roll him over onto his back, and he was like stuck to the ground and stuff. And it's just so gross. Like it's so bad. Ugh. I couldn't do it. So I tried to like push him over. And his hand was like this, so I opened his hand because I didn't know like if he was hanging on to something or what he was doing. There was nothing in his hand. But I tried to push him over, and I didn't get him over. And I said, she said, you want to do? And I said, no, I can see if the fingers were like blue.
And I don't want to go into deep. When you tried to roll over, do you kind of feel like he was like stuck to the ground or frozen to the ground?
It did, but it wasn't like rigor mortis or anything. It wasn't like that.
Okay.
But it was just like his clothes were kind of stuck there or whatever.
Okay. Notice anything else about him? I know I'm bringing in some really, if you're not comfortable going into some detail of what you saw when you were looking at him, I don't want you to go there, but is there anything else that you noticed around him that was unusual or anything that?
No, he just had like his hand here in like one ear or whatever, and he was like on the side like this. I don't know. Like there was snow on his eyes, and his lips and stuff. And so I knew immediately. My worst fear is that he chased me down the driveway and slipped and fell. And then I just left him there, and I didn't even know he was there. Because otherwise I could have just come back. And then I pulled in the driveway today, and I didn't even see him. I had no idea he was there. And that would have helped. Well, maybe it was like 2 o'clock. It could have helped. I don't know. Oh my God, I just can't believe he was out there. Like,
You didn't, when you were pulling away, you didn't see him?
no. I didn't, like, at that time, I just had to get the hell out of there. I didn't see him. I didn't know what he was doing.
Just the door wasn't, your door, the driver's door wasn't open or anything, he wasn't in there?
My door was not open. The passenger side was open.
Was.
But he was on my side.
He couldn't have got the clothing or anything caught in the door because the door wasn't open.
I do not remember my door being open unless if he got it open last second. I do not, but I know that that's what he was coming for, but I don't, I
don't think he got that.
can't remember that. That's why it's so beneficial that we have the cameras.
Sure. I'm gonna go check to see how they're doing with the time, let's help us out with the time frames on your statement, that the camera should be able to get stats, so I just wanna double check with that.
Okay,
Do you need to go to the bathroom?
I'm gonna go to the bathroom again. I just feel so bad that Kimmy's having to deal with all this stuff.
Yeah, she wants to be there for you, so that's. You can go right back and then I'll be right back with you.
Okay.
Stopping at 1:20:46.
Judge, while she is doing that, I will briefly make a record that although it was different than what we saw before, there does seem to be, or there was some brief period where the video blacked out again. Originally, it looked like it was maybe a screensaver kind of thing, or the computer had not been used for enough period of time. I just wanted to note that for the record, that when we did replay the video, it was brief but similar, that there was that blackout on the screen.
Can I comment on it?
Yeah, if you have an explanation.
I don't have an explanation, but it cut out at the 10:39, and came back on at 10:41. So it looked like there's approximately 2 minutes that were not played in that.
I'm going to start off at 1:21:22.
Good.
Oh.
They're still working on that camera system. I don't know what they got working on it. Just, is there anything that I didn't ask you? That you think is pertinent or you need to tell me that I didn't? You know, I always ask people that because I ask a lot of questions and sometimes I skip over some obvious things that might be obvious to you is not obvious to me. So is there anything that you think that I didn't ask you that you need to fill in a blank or anything that I know your mind's spinning. I understand that it's gonna be.
It is. No.
Okay. All right. I want to try to be able to help you put together your time frame a little bit better, or at least put times to it. I mean, your statement's well written and everything, but I think if we could add some times and when things may have happened, and the phone
Can
might.
they give us the phone just to use until?
The phone might help us do that.
Right.
They're working on that aspect of it. I don't know where they are, but we can. The camera system will probably help so that
Oh, for
we
sure.
can figure. Yeah, that'll give us details that we can backtrack on.
Right.
Yeah. So let me just do some more checking.
I just hope the cameras are on. I mean, I don't know if they were or not. I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm assuming they were if I had to turn the cameras off to come
Sure.
home.
Yeah, and that's something that it sounds like Mark typically would have done. Lock the door. You say he locks the door and
We double lock the door all
double
the
lock
time.
the door and turn the cameras on when you're not there. I think that's
Well,
something
when
that's
he's in the cities, I have the cameras on all the time.
Sure.
Because it just makes me feel safe.
Absolutely. That's what they're there for.
Right. So when he's home, we just don't have them on that often. We turn them off. Unless if we go somewhere. So if we went somewhere, then more than likely, we should have turned it on. I thought I saw hair go flying.
And when he's home, would he be the one that would probably turn that on or turn it off? Or
We both do.
We both do.
Yeah, it's a one little button, so it's so
It's
simple.
pretty simple camera.
Right off of our camera, or phone.
And so there's a camera, when we're standing on the first driveway, and you're looking at the house, there's a camera that sits there.
Mhm.
The man cave, is there one that's there
It's on the house, facing the truck.
facing where the truck was? So right on, like the door that I walked into your house with, there's a camera that's facing
On the house, not on the little porch, but it's on the house.
on the side of the
So
house.
you can see the man cave and the garage.
Okay.
And then the last one we put by the hot tub, so we could see if anybody ever tries to go into the barn.
And I didn't see the hot tub. The hot tub's on the back side of the man
By the
cave.
pool.
Okay, I didn't get down that far that there's a pool. So that's on the back side of where that is. Okay. And then there's,
So when you look at, you can see, it shows you the 3 cameras. So if you look at the
Okay.
phone, it will show you all 3 cameras. You can go live,
So
you
it's-
can go
first driveway, back door facing the man shed, and then over the top of the
hot tub,
hot tub pool area.
looking at the barn. Oh my God, I couldn't even say the word
Okay.
barn.
So it'd be kind of angled. Okay, I understand that. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go check to see if they have any luck on that, and then I'll be right back. All right. Trying to see if there's anything. My mind starts, when I start asking questions, sometimes I just want to see, make sure there's nothing that I didn't ask you that is pertinent. Put it back. You good? You need anything? Okay.
Oh my God.
Scott, is that Mark's brother?
Hmm.
He's here. I'm gonna go, I'll let Kimmy come in and hang out with you. Is that okay? And I'll just talk to him,
Mhm.
explain what we know and don't know at this point. All right. I'll bring her in.
I'm not really sure why they're making us listen to silence.
Scott and Todd are here. Is that your other brother?
His other brother.
Okay, I'm gonna go talk to them. So, do you need anything? Okay. Be right back.
video at 1:40.
Okay. Go ahead.
Investigator Linefeller, before we move on from the video, can you please let us know? I guess my question is this the end of this video in terms of time, physical time?
No, it is not.
Can you indicate about how much time you think is left?
14 minutes, 20 seconds, it looks like by the timestamp.
We've paused the video. Is there anything from your memory of, at this point moving forward, that happens in the last bit of this video that you would like to share?
Nothing of significance.
And that was exhibit number.
76.
What number, Your Honor?
76.
I asked that exhibit 76 be removed from the screen. Oh, I had asked that it be removed from the screen.
Oh, okay.
Your Honor, I hate to ask this, but I could use a bathroom break.
Okay. You don't have to hate to ask the folks how some might need it. All right, why don't we take a 10 to 15-minute break as soon as everybody's ready.
Thank you.
Don't worry, it's in the transcript.
Weak bladder.
Is relevant information. It is a short clip. I know we are trying to keep things moving. That's why I wanted to ask ahead of time if there was a thought on how to do that effortlessly.
I don't know, do you have a copy of it that doesn't have the glitch in it, or?
Every time, yes, Judge, I think we do. And that's Attorney Scamp is going to just make sure. This is the first time I've seen this glitch.
I mean, do you have a lot more questioning for Investigator Linefeller?
I have some brief questions, so I'll continue.
Why don't we continue with that questioning, and if we're able to do it, get it in. I mean, is it that material compared to the 2 hours of information that was there? Is it that?
From the state's perspective, Judge, it is. And again, it's for the completeness of the exhibit.
Well, the one thing is completeness. The other thing is it material? Is it necessary for the state's case in order to prove one of the elements?
We think it is. Or Judge, I guess, in terms of an offer of proof.
Just, we have to speed this up, okay? We cannot go into the weekend, and Monday is very difficult for me, for this court. So it's not fair to the defense to be able to shorten their case. They have the right to present their case. But you have to figure out a way to make this go faster. They're short in questioning. Figure out a way to get, you should have done this earlier. Figure out a way to get to the point faster. Because if anything, we have a jury that's being very attentive, but you start showing stuff with 20 minutes of blank tape, you can just get an agreement like you did in the second. It's okay. We don't need to show all of the tape, the entire video. So I just asked somehow the state figure out how to speed this up. He told me it was going to be done actually midday today, I thought, if originally. You know, I can accept the end of today, but tomorrow the defense has at least enough witnesses for one day, if not a day and a half. So it's not fair to the defense to cut them off. And you were given time. If we needed more time, months ago, it could have been requested for 2 weeks trial. That wasn't made. So again, we're back in this position where we're trying to figure out how to make this work. I'm wasting time just doing that. Should we bring the jury in? All right, we'll bring the jury. All right, everybody may be seated. Continue on within the question. Go ahead.
So Investigator Leinfelder, now that you have completed the interview, one question, I'm not asking you to comment on what we saw. Was Ms. Phillips more or less visibly emotional when you first interviewed her at her residence?
Compared to when she was in the interview room at the Homeland Police Department, she was less visibly upset at the Homeland Police Department.
There was some discussion about injuries. It looks like she showed you something in the beginning of the video. Did you yourself notice any injuries?
I observed no injuries or markings on Miss Phillips at that time when she was attempting to show that in the video.
Is that the last time you spoke with Ms. Phillips?
For that interview?
Yes.
Yes.
So now that we've heard what we've heard, what is the next step in your investigation? What do you do?
Typically in these scenarios, these investigations, we come together and kind of discuss, brainstorm of what was collected at the scene, what was information we have. We kind of do a debrief on the totality of everything that has been gathered at that point. And then typically Captain Zimmerman would then assign other investigations, interviews and things like that to do. So we kind of went into the interview mode in that sense. There was also eventually some search warrants that were written and search warrants that were executed on different items throughout the course of the investigation.
Were you aware of an autopsy being done?
Yes, I was.
Do you know what date that was?
I believe it was on Tuesday, would have been the 27th.
So following this incident,
Yes.
or interview, I mean, and incident, but following this interview?
Yes, following, after. The autopsy was conducted after the interview was conducted.
So were you aware of you were not aware of the results of the autopsy when you conducted this interview, is that correct?
That's correct. At the time of the interview, we had no idea of what the cause or manner of death was.
You had mentioned, I guess, search warrants. For what exactly? Or I guess, what was the follow-up there? What was the lead?
Well, they had the Blink camera system, their home security camera system, that we ended up doing a search warrant on that to retrieve any information that might be on that. We did do a search warrant on phones. I'm trying to think I can't think of any other search warrants right off the top of my head.
Was there a search warrant for the truck?
Yes, there was a search warrant for the truck.
Did that include the interior of the truck?
It did.
I guess, did you personally execute that warrant?
Yes, myself and Captain Zimmerman were the two officers that were there when the crime lab came to do the forensic examination and evidence collection from the truck.
Did you ever find the diamond earring that was referenced?
No, did not.
Are you aware of anyone in your office department or anything like that finding said earring?
No.
Based on your understanding of, I guess, your office procedure, that kind of thing, is that the kind of thing that if it were found, it would have been reported to somebody?
Typically do a search warrant. Items that are seized are documented. So obviously if there's nothing seized, then there would be no documentation for it. When you do execute a search warrant, whether it be for, say, drugs, you would seize drugs at the scene. We'd then do basically attach everything that was seized during that search warrant to the search warrant, and that would be filed. So if something's not seized, it's not going to be included on a evidence return.
Did you do follow-up interview with witnesses?
Yes, I did.
And was that based on the information, I guess, that you learned from the interview?
Yes, based on information from the interview, based on talking with other people, receiving other information regarding the case, we then do follow-up interviews.
Did you speak with Adam Stevens?
I did, yes.
Did you speak with Hannah Klinsky?
Yes, I did.
about how, I guess, when did you do that?
I believe that would have been Monday, the 26th, at one of the residents in Winona. That would have been after the interview of Miss Phillips prior to the autopsy.
I am not asking about her statements, but did Ms. Klinsky throughout the course of your interview show you anything or give you anything?
Yes, she shared with me some of the text messages that she had on her phone between Miss Phillips and herself from that evening, the evening in question, the 22nd to the 23rd.
Did you do anything to, I guess, memorialize or capture those messages that you just referenced?
Yes, I was able to take photographs with my phone of the screenshots that this Ms. Klinsky was showing me. So I had those that were then placed in evidence also.
And can I see that?
I'm showing you Investigator Linefelder what has now been marked as Exhibit 77. Are you able to identify those?
Yes, these are the photos that I took of the screenshots off of Hannah Klinsky's phone.
Those are the pictures that you took.
That's correct.
Is there a number in the top left corner?
Yes. On this phone, it's the top of the screen is titled Lori, and then a phone number of 608-799-0822.
Do you know if that's Lori's number or not?
I was aware that that was Lori's number. Also on the text message screenshot, there is a photo image next to the message, which I did know to be a photo of Lori Phillips.
Yeah. I'm handing you what's been marked as Exhibit 78. You identify that?
This is a picture of the screenshot that I took with my phone of Hannah Klinsky's phone. It's the top portion of Miss Klinsky's phone. Again, it says, has the title of Lori, the phone number, and then the photo with text messages next to it.
Is that a zoomed in picture of the exhibit that I had previously shown you or part of that exhibit?
It is a zoomed in image of one of the priors.
Is there a timestamp that shows when it was received? It being the text.
The text on this would be 10:07 p.m.
Can you read the message?
The message is, the message that came from Miss Phillips to Hannah Klinsky's phone reads, "Shit just got real," followed by, "I'm deleting this message, don't reply back." And that is a timestamp of 10:07 p.m.
I asked that both exhibits be received into the record. Although actually, Your Honor, I asked that the secondary exhibit, the one we just talked about, I believe is 78, be received into the record.
I move 77 as well, Your Honor.
Yeah, both be received.
Investigator Leinfelder, you had watched the interview, you followed along with us, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That there was a period where I guess it looks like the screen goes black. Did you see that, or?
Yes, I did.
And do you remember the times you had talked about?
Yes, I noted that it went blank. The timestamp on the video screen was approximately 10:39. I'm not sure of the exact seconds on it. When the image returned, it had a timestamp of 10:41. Again, not exactly sure what the seconds were attached to that also.
Are you able, do you have enough memory after your review of that video to tell us what we missed in that period that you just identified?
Objection violates the best evidence rule.
All right, well, bring it back up if you need
Wow.
to.
Then, Your Honor,
I mean, if you, go ahead, talk to him.
and Your Honor, before I re-ask the question, just to put on the record, I will ask Investigator Leinfelder to be a little bit methodical, just so that if there's something that was not what we just discussed off the record, that Attorney Zacher has an opportunity to object.
Okay, go ahead.
So Investigator Leinfelder, the period that you just identified in the interview, that time period, what, to the best of your memory, did Ms. Phillips tell you?
Ms. Phillips was talking at that point about exiting the driveway and turning onto County W. And I'm not sure if it was in that portion, but she said that the passenger door was open when she got down to the end of the driveway to the highway. And when she made the turn, that door, the passenger door, closed with the turning, making the right turn. She stated that she had driven a few blocks, 2 blocks down the road, where she stopped to see if Mark was following her. She then went further down the roadway, turned, and there was a vehicle behind her, which she thought may be a police officer, which caused her to panic. In her words, she might get in trouble. She then made the turn into a subdivision to the left, and I believe that vehicle followed her into the subdivision where she stopped. She then observed it was a white SUV that pulled into a adjacent driveway and I believe into their garage at that time.
Those are all the questions I have.
All right, Ross?
Yes, Your Honor. Keep working on it. I've got a few. All right, so Investigator Leinfelder, you have been a professional investigator now for more than 20 years, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you've been in law enforcement for more than 30 years, is that correct?
That is also correct.
And in that capacity, I imagine you've conducted hundreds, if not thousands, of investigations.
I would say that'd be fair.
So you're very well familiar with the process of conducting a good investigation, is that fair?
Yes.
And a basic part of conducting an investigation is gathering all of the relevant facts, right?
That would be part of it, yes.
Because it's the facts and the collection of the relevant facts that allow you to solve or close a case, right?
Yes,
It's the facts that are relied upon by judges and juries when a case is brought to trial, correct?
yes,
And it's the facts that can truly determine whether or not somebody is culpable of a crime, correct?
that would be accurate.
More importantly, the facts can also help to exonerate people who are not culpable of crimes. Is that
Also,
correct?
also accurate.
In your line of work, would you agree that it's important to avoid making assumptions?
Yes,
Because things aren't always what they seem to be, right?
absolutely.
And if you make an assumption, sometimes you might miss out on important evidence.
Yes,
And making assumptions can cause, in certain cases, targeting of somebody who's not culpable of a crime, right?
I would agree with that.
And can cause truly guilty parties to not be targeted, correct?
You could say that also.
All right. Would you agree that in criminal investigations that all investigations should be thorough?
Yes,
That the facts that you rely upon and gather should be accurate?
yes,
And to the extent that there are unanswered questions, your investigation should be complete.
yes,
And you agree, Investigator Leinfelder, that no investigator can tell us, well, let me add, that you cannot tell us exactly what happened simply by looking at the scene at the Phillips home, correct?
I think you can't tell that by looking at any scene. That's
So
accurate.
let's talk about your arrival at the home. You arrived at about 7 a.m. or so,
Yes,
so that's about half an hour after the 911 call.
I believe so.
And during that time frame, Ms. Phillips appeared to be very upset. Is that correct?
Are you asking me what I know now?
At 7 a.m.
At 7 a.m., she was appeared to be upset when I arrived.
And you noted that in your police report, actually, that she was, quote, very upset. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Consistent with somebody who had just found her husband dead.
yes,
And she gave you some information initially about her husband, Mark, right?
yes. She gave me information about Mark.
Told you that he was diabetic, right?
Yes,
Told you the name and contact information for his son.
yes,
Told you that his parents were summering in Arizona at the time.
yes,
And the two of you actually had a conversation inside of Ms. Phillips' home at some point. Is that correct?
yes. That's also correct.
You were sitting at her kitchen table.
It was in the kitchen area. If I was sitting at the kitchen table, I don't recall, but it was in the house.
And I should ask you, in the video, Investigator Leinfelder, there's a reference to about how well Ms. Phillips and the two of you knew each other. Did you know Ms. Phillips socially at all before this point?
No, I didn't.
Did you know of her?
Not really.
Had you ever spoken with Ms. Phillips before?
Not that I ever recall.
And at this conversation at the kitchen table, about how far away were you from one another?
I think within social talking distance, I would say.
Standard length of a regular kitchen table.
Yes,
And you had an opportunity to view Ms. Phillips at that point, right?
yes,
And if you believe that Ms. Phillips was showing signs of intoxication, certainly you would have noted that in your investigation, right?
I believe I would probably, if it was something that was really standing out, then I believe I would have noted that, yes.
And in this case, you agree that you didn't ask Ms. Phillips to perform field sobriety tests, for instance.
Yeah, no, I did not. That's correct.
You didn't ask Ms. Phillips to consent to a legal blood draw for the presence of drugs or alcohol. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And during this conversation, how long would you say that you were at the house for? So you said that you left for the Homeland Police Department at about 9:30. Is that correct?
I believe we arrived at the home police department about 9:30, and it's not that long of a distance drive. There were some things I was doing at the scene. I couldn't really quantify a time frame of the length of my conversation with Miss Phillips at the residence. 20 minutes, a half hour, I think would be fair to say.
Well, it seemed like Ms. Phillips had already given you a lot of the information that you discussed when the two of you met at the Homeland Police Department. Does did some of that come up during your earlier conversation at the house?
Yes, that's when she would have been relaying that. You noticed in the interview that I made reference to some of the things, like she wasn't sure of the hotel, and I had in my notes and I reminded her of that. So some of those conversations took place at the residence also.
Investigator Landfelder, did you record that earlier conversation in any capacity?
No, I did not.
Now, once you got to the Holman PD, where you had a chance to look at Ms. Phillips, and obviously you saw the video and what she was wearing, correct?
Yes,
She appeared to be wearing, I guess, this shows my fashion sense, a black dress with like a strap across her neck, right?
she appeared, to me, she appeared she had a vest on with maybe a scarf. Is that what you're referring to?
It appeared to be the same clothing that Ms. Phillips was viewed wearing earlier in the evening when you reviewed video surveillance footage of she and Mr. Phillips on February 22nd.
Yeah, after I would have reviewed video from the different locations that they were at sometime after the interview, the clothing appeared to be consistent with what she was wearing the night of the incident when they were out and about, and the next day when we arrived on scene. She was wearing it, very consistent, if not identical to.
Okay. Appeared to be the same clothing, right?
Absolutely, yes.
All right. So at the very beginning of this interview, you told Ms. Phillips that you didn't expect her to remember everything. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's what I tell most people.
And you said that recognizing that she'd just been through a very recent trauma, right?
She found her husband dead in the driveway, so yes.
And you wouldn't expect a suspect or a subject, rather, in that circumstance to give you every single minute detail in the first conversation. Is that fair to say?
Could you
Sure.
say that again, please? I'm sorry.
You're asking for a story at that point in generalities, right? What happened? Give us the big picture of what went on between February 22nd and February 23rd.
Yes, basically we asked that, what's of importance.
And during this conversation, you acknowledged again that Ms. Phillips' mind must be spinning, right?
I did say that also, yes.
And it's not uncommon, an investigator, for people to leave out or neglect to bring up important facts during an initial conversation like this.
Is it uncommon for people to do that?
It's
or-
not uncommon.
It's not uncommon for people to leave out details.
Correct.
Is what you're asking me. Yes, for many different reasons.
Now, during this interview, Ms. Phillips did become emotional at times.
Yes, you're referring to the house.
I'm referring to the Holman Police Department.
Yes,
And there were points in time when she was crying.
Never mind, withdrawn.
I don't know if I can say after watching the video that I observed her crying. She was kind of maybe sobbing and saying things under her breath.
Okay, well, let's get on the same page as to how we define crying. Are you defining crying as the secretion of tears?
I would say that more along those lines of tears coming down, nose running.
All right. And certainly some of what we discussed about her sobbing and saying things like "oh Mark" or "oh baby" under her breath, you observed that, right?
Now object to speculation. The video is what we saw.
You observed the video, so you can testify to what you observed.
So are you asking me what I observed the day of interviewing her?
Yes.
I believe that most of those statements that she made, like "oh Mark," "oh baby," were when I was not in the interview room. So I would not have been made aware of those till after I watched the interview itself.
And all right. We'll get to that in a moment. During the interview at the Holman Police Department, Lori described at a number of different occasions that Mark had become aggressive with her on February 22nd. Is that correct?
Yes.
And she indicated to you that Mark had battered her to the point that an earring had been ripped out of her ear. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Did you personally inventory the Dodge Ram investigator? Was that Captain Zimmerman or was that somebody else?
I don't remember exactly who would have done the inventory. Like I explained, the inventories are things that are taken from a search warrant that would be an inventory.
Okay,
So if you're referring to the earring, if there's not an earring that was found, obviously it would not be
sure.
put in
Well,
the record.
I'm asking who actually searched the vehicle and looked for the earring, if not all the other property within it.
I believe Captain Zimmerman and myself did the interior of the vehicle after the crime lab would have been completed with their search of the exterior of the vehicle.
And approximately how long did you spend searching the interior of the vehicle?
I can tell you the search warrant was opened at 9:27 a.m. and the search warrant was closed at 2 p.m. Typically on every search warrant, you have an entry time that we enter on the search warrant. And then we have a closing of the search warrant, meaning we're done searching, and that is documented on the backside of the search warrant. So from 9:30 to 2, again, that was to include what the crime lab was doing, and then what we would be completing the search warrant, which would have included looking through the cab.
That would also include transferring the truck from the La Crosse County Sheriff's Department garage to D's Auto Care.
Yes, we would open the search warrant upon me entering into the vehicle to move the vehicle across the alleyway.
Now, you agree, investigator, that you did not search areas outside of where the truck would have been parked on the evening of February 22nd. Is that fair to say?
But I did not?
Correct.
Yes, I did. That was not my responsibility.
And you're not aware of anybody looking on the area of the driveway around where the vehicle would have been parked either upon its departure or return to the Phillips home on February 22nd. Is that correct?
Am I aware of anybody else searching that area where the truck was parked that night?
I'm asking, did anybody actually go out and look on that driveway for an earring?
They picked up items that were on the driveway that night. So they would have been searching for, I mean, I think it was a can koozie that was seen, that was in the driveway. So again, I wasn't responsible there. I wasn't one there. I would assume that they would be searching things. I don't believe anything was relayed at the time.
Well,
But
there's snow on the driveway, right?
there was snow in the driveway.
And did anybody go out to the area around the dive bar where Ms. Phillips described the truck being parked around the time that she was physically assaulted the first time by Mr. Phillips?
I don't believe anybody was in that parking lot.
We can agree that the earring not being inventoried in this particular search doesn't mean that it wasn't removed during that assault within the cab of the truck, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can agree upon that it wasn't found is what I'm saying.
All right. Now, during this interview at the Holman Police Department, Ms. Phillips described to you being placed into a chokehold. Is that correct?
Yes,
And do you agree that you didn't ask her what she meant by that, by a chokehold?
I didn't ask her to clarify what she meant by that. That's correct.
Okay. Didn't ask her the standard questions you might ask on an allegation of strangulation, right?
What are you referring to?
Was your breathing impeded?
Did I ask her that question? No, I did not.
That's something that investigators typically do when they're investigating an allegation of strangulation, correct?
You could say that, yes.
And Ms. Phillips, you testified on your direct examination that you didn't see any injuries or markings on Ms. Phillips. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that's accurate.
All right. Give me an exhibit mark, please. A couple of them, actually.
Oh, is this, are you doing defense exhibits?
Investigator, you wrote a police report following your initial investigation in this matter.
Yes,
And the purpose of a police report is to include all of the relevant details that you're able to recall about an encounter, correct?
yes,
And you agree that police reports should also be thorough, accurate, and complete, like the remainder of your investigation?
typically we try to make sure that our reports are all of those things.
And you're writing these reports when the events are relatively fresh in your mind, right?
Yes,
And these reports are actually submitted for your review before they're finalized, is that correct?
yes,
And you carefully review all of your reports before finalizing them.
I try to, yes.
And then your reports are reviewed typically by a superior officer, so to speak, or a
Usually-
supervising officer.
Yeah, supervising captain, in this case would be Captain Zimmerman.
And if there's a problem with your report, they can have you issue an amendment or an addendum of some sort, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 515. Let me know what this is, investigator.
This is the initial report that I prepared of my interview of Lori Phillips.
Does that appear to be a complete and authentic copy of your initial report of your interview with Ms. Phillips?
I would say yes.
All right, and I've highlighted a section on, I believe, page 2 of that report. Let me know when you're there.
I am there.
In your report, Investigator Leinfelder, did you reference asking Ms. Phillips about a bruise on her chest?
Yes.
And was your memory back at the time that you authored that report better or worse than today?
I think in context, there's a different context that you're taking this out of, but my memory would be better regarding this report at the time I was doing.
Okay. Well, you do note asking Ms. Phillips about a bruise in your police report, correct?
Yes, Ms. Phillips asked me or told me that there was a bruise, and I was asking her about the bruise.
Okay. Do you recall testifying at the preliminary hearing in this matter?
Yes.
And your testimony at that hearing was under oath as well, correct?
Yes,
Same oath that you've taken before testifying in this matter?
absolutely.
And you take your oath to tell the truth seriously, correct?
Yes, to best of our knowledge.
You were telling the truth at the preliminary hearing when you testified, right?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to approach with Exhibit 516. It's a copy of the certified transcript of the preliminary hearing, page 43. Mr. Burdick, if you want to come up?
No, I'm grabbing my binder, sorry.
All right, and Investigator Leinfelder, I'm just going to stand up here and follow along with you. On the preliminary hearing transcript, I'm starting at line 15 to line 18. Let me know when you've read the highlighted sections.
I have.
All right. And it appears that back at the preliminary hearing, I asked you a question, quote, when you spoke with Ms. Phillips, you were able to observe a bruise on her upper right, I guess, chest area, end quote. Do you recall me asking you that question?
I don't recall you asking that question.
Does that
It's
appear
in the
to be what
transfer?
the certified transcript says?
Yes,
And your response was, quote, I did observe that, comma, yes, end quote.
yes.
Was that your response?
That was my response according to the record.
All right. For purposes of impeaching, I would offer Exhibit 516 and 515 for purposes used.
The
No
objection
objection.
you received?
All right. So Lori described an incident that happened very quickly. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
In fact, she said at one point that the incident happened, quote, so fast. Is that correct?
yes,
And she indicated to you that she believed that her husband was coming around the truck to come and get her, correct?
yes.
In the context of coming to attack her, correct?
I guess I can't answer the context, I guess.
Well, certainly she was describing him being very angry at that point, right?
Yes,
And running around the car, right?
yes,
And described her husband initially coming out to the truck, running out with his fist up, right?
yes, you described that.
And a lot of what Ms. Phillips told you during this interview, you and other investigators have been able to corroborate as accurate. Is that fair to say?
What are you referring to as a lot of the other information?
Well, Ms. Phillips told you that the passenger side door of the vehicle was open when she took off out of the driveway, correct?
She told us that, yes?
And she told you that she had activated her surveillance cameras to look in for her husband after she escaped the home. Is that correct?
Yes, she turned them on.
And you were able to corroborate that from the Amazon records?
That we were able to, yes.
She told you about a third surveillance camera by the hot tub in the pool area where she was looking for her husband. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, that's correct.
You were able to corroborate that that camera in the hot tub and pool existed.
Yes,
She told you that she turned the cameras back off before she came back home because she didn't want to alert her husband. Is that correct?
that's accurate.
And you were able to corroborate that from the records as well.
Yes,
She told you about texting her friend, and I am totally blanking right now, Hannah Klinsky, prior to leaving the dive bar for the final time. Is that correct?
yes,
Something to the effect of shit just got real.
yes,
You were able to corroborate that from the records.
that's correct.
You were able to corroborate Ms. Phillips' approximate movements at Sloopy's alma mater as she described to you.
That's correct.
You were able to corroborate Ms. Phillips' presence at the dive bar during the time frames that she described.
Also correct.
You were able to corroborate Ms. Phillips' presence at the Baymont Inn as she described.
That's correct.
And you were able to corroborate Ms. Phillips' presence at Woodman's in Onalaska as she described.
Yes,
And in fact, when the subject of her telephone came up, Ms. Phillips willingly gave that phone to you. Is that correct?
yes,
Gave you the passcode,
yes,
gave you verbal and written consent to search the data within,
yes,
gave you the login information to her Blink camera system,
yes,
which included both the email and the password,
yes,
showed you how to review that video,
yes,
and didn't make you get a warrant for any of this. Is that correct?
that's correct.
And you were able to corroborate from your review of the camera system that it was Mark Phillips who initially disarmed the system on February 21st. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about the exhibits or the content of Exhibit 77. Can I get that back, please? All right. Your Honor, I'd move to publish. 77.
No objection.
Can be published, go ahead.
All right, so Investigator Leinfelder, these are photographs that you took of Ms. Klinsky's cellular telephone, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And the lady on the left in pink, that would be Ms. Phillips,
Yes,
and the H in the circle on the right would be Ms. Klinsky.
yes,
All right, so we're starting with the messages at 10:07 p.m. And this is what Mr. Burdick just described with you on the abbreviated message. Shit just got real. I'm deleting this message. Don't reply back. Is that correct?
yes,
After Ms. Klinsky requests or asks, how are things going? Where did you guys end up going? Ms. Phillips responds to her at 10:51 p.m. Is that correct?
yes,
And that response reads, quote, "He just freaked again. He was at the passenger side of the truck and tried to come at me around the truck, but I took off. I don't even know what to do. He has lost it tonight. He promised he would never touch me. He lied," end quote. Is that consistent with what you photographed?
yes, it is.
And Ms. Klinsky appears to show some concern for Ms. Phillips throughout this, indicating that things were not okay. Is that correct?
I guess I'll object speculation. Referring to what Ms. Klinsky thinks.
Okay, let me rephrase. Ms. Klinsky tells Ms. Phillips, quote, "Lori, this isn't even okay in the slightest. Did he hit you? Are you okay?" Is that correct?
It is.
And Ms. Phillips indicates that he's out of control. I am done. He can go to Bismarck on his own. He has issues, big time. Is that correct?
It is.
And he in this conversation, Investigator Leinfelder, presumably we're referring to Mark Phillips.
Yes,
Now, Ms. Phillips, in this conversation, at least that you captured, appears to be talking about Mr. Phillips like he's alive, well, and going to Bismarck that weekend. Is that correct?
can you repeat that?
Ms. Phillips' response seems to indicate her belief that Mr. Phillips was alive, well, and moving to Bismarck.
Objection out of the scope calls for a conclusion, not his speculation.
can read if you need to read it out loud, to point out the obvious, go ahead.
Okay, well, we've pointed it out. The, going on to page 2 of Exhibit 77. Ms. Phillips appears to be describing other actions to Ms. Klinsky that she later described to you on February 23rd. Is that correct?
Yes,
Particularly punching the window on the truck.
you're referring to the,
Yeah, the correction with the asterisks.
yes,
And as well as grabbing her face and pushing it down between the seats.
yes,
Bless you.
Bless.
Losing her earring.
yes,
And then later, and Ms. Klinsky actually indicates that she could have her father come out and pick up Lori, right?
yes,
Now, Lori indicated on these text messages that she was approximately 2 miles down the road in a subdivision. Is that correct?
yes, that's what you texted.
And after the two of them apparently have another exchange about whether or not Lori should move to Bismarck. Is that correct?
Yes,
Ms. Phillips, during these text messages, describes her attempt to book a hotel room and inadvertently booking a hotel room on the wrong evening. I can show you. This is page 4 of the same exhibit.
yes, that's accurate.
And eventually, Ms. Klinsky extends an invitation to Ms. Phillips to stay with her in Winona that evening. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Ms. Phillips' response was that quote, me coming to Winona would only make things worse. Mark thinks that I'm coming to sleep with other guys. He's fucking crazy. Seriously, I just want to sleep. I promise I am fine. End quote. Did I read that correctly?
You did, yes.
And that was at 12:16 a.m.
Yes, sorry.
All right. Now, you reviewed the data that investigator Haug completed from the Cellbrite download at some point after February 23rd. Is that correct?
It wasn't my task to be in charge of the cell phone data from that. I was made aware of things that were in the cell phone data. But again, it wasn't my responsibility in the investigation.
Okay. Well, you were aware of the fact that Ms. Phillips was searching for hotels, as she indicated. Is that correct?
Yes,
Including a specific search for the Baymont Inn.
yes.
And Lori's folder with the internet searches. And the internet searches for me. One of the terms that she searched for was physical abuse. Is that correct?
Yes,
Followed by it was misspelled, but it was physical abuse, quite Quite.
I believe that. Yeah, I believe that's accurate.
And eventually, Ms. Phillips sent a text message to her husband, Mark, with something that appeared to be copied and pasted pursuant to this search. Is that correct?
Yes.
In the exhibit, Mark, please. All right. Investigator Leinfelder, I'm approaching what's been marked as Exhibit 517. Direct your attention to the two conversations in the middle,
Here,
that one and the one below it.
these two.
Are you familiar with those conversations?
Yes, I have seen them.
And those appear to be copies of the or text messages that Ms. Phillips sent to Mark Phillips.
Yes,
Can I get the exhibit back, please?
sure.
Offer Exhibit 517. No objection.
Received.
Move to publish.
Any
Also
objection?
no objection.
You're allowed.
All right. So first question, investigator, UTC stands for Universal Time Coordinated.
Yes, that's correct.
And another name for that might be Greenwich Mean Time.
I believe so.
And in order to convert UTC time to Central Standard Time, we subtract 6 hours, correct?
I believe that's the correct time or the number of hours.
So on the top message there, subtracting 6 hours from 4:57 a.m. and 52 seconds would put us at 10:57 p.m. and 52 seconds. Is that correct?
Yes,
And I'm going to read this out loud, and let me know if I'm reading this correctly. Quote, I wish you the best, but the best will never be with me. You lost everything tonight because you let your mind get the best of you. I cannot even believe you put your hands on me. Good luck in Bismarck, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
yes, you read that correctly.
That appears to be sent from Ms. Phillips's telephone with the last four numbers of 0822.
Yes,
And it appears to be received by Mr. Phillips's telephone labeled on this document as Boss Man.
yes,
That's followed up by what I was getting to earlier, a second text message following Ms. Phillips's Google search for physical abuse and physical abuse quit. Is that correct?
yes,
And I'm going to read this one out loud as well, Investigator Leinfelder. Let me know if I'm reading this correctly. Quote, an abuser can seem emotionally needy. You can get caught in a trap of catering to him, trying to fill a bottomless pit. But he's not so much needy as entitled. So no matter how much you give him, it will never be enough. He'll just keep coming up with more demands because he believes his needs are your responsibility until you feel drained down to nothing, end quote.
you read that correctly.
And I'm going to scoot this up on the Elmo here. It looks like the UTC time is 6:10 and 13 seconds. Subtracting 6 hours would put this at midnight, 13 minutes, or 10 minutes and 13 seconds. Is that correct?
Yes,
And that appeared to have been sent from Ms. Phillips' phone to Mr. Phillips' phone at that time.
yes,
As an investigator, is it fair to assume that viewing these messages, you had some concerns about whether or not Ms. Phillips was a victim of physical abuse? Well, let me ask you this. You certainly the circumstances leading up to Ms. Phillips's departure were relevant to your investigation, correct?
yes,
And the fact that Ms. Phillips appeared to be repeatedly expressing that Mr. Phillips had been physically abusive to her is certainly very relevant.
yes, that's what Ms. Phillips told me in the interview.
And investigator, am I correct in assuming that you did not take these text messages back to Ms. Phillips and ask her to elaborate on the degree and extent of domestic violence that happened on the 22nd?
Did these text messages go back to Miss Phillips?
Did you take these text messages back to Ms. Phillips and
No, I
ask her
didn't.
about them?
No, I did not.
Now, of the Cellbrite documents contained on, or that you were able to review, can we agree that there's nothing of the sort in Ms. Phillips's Google searches for how to cover up a hit and run, for instance?
Yes, there was no searches regarding that.
No searches like Wisconsin recklessness law or I just hit my husband, what do I do?
None of those searches were done on the phone.
The only searches appeared to be for a hotel and for physical abuse, correct?
In that time frame, yes.
Yes. Yeah, and she's
Yes.
searching for dogs and apartments and other stuff elsewhere. So your department has a policy on domestic violence, is that correct?
Yes,
It's policy number 310, is that correct?
yes.
Take my word
I'll
for it.
take your word for it.
And that's a policy that you're very well familiar with, right?
Yes,
Because as an investigator, one of your roles is investigating serious acts of domestic violence against others.
typically that policy is written more so for a patrol officer and what a patrol officer is going to do when he gets a call of service to a domestic situation. As investigators, the part of that policy, I believe, is in there is also how we handle that as investigators, but it's kind of, portions of it don't deal with the investigative portion of it, more so mandatory arrests and things like that we have by law that we're required to do in domestic situations.
Well, one part of that policy requires officers to photograph all injuries allegedly sustained in a domestic incident, however slight. Is that correct?
I'll take your word for that, yes.
Is that good policy, investigator?
I believe it would be good policy, yes.
You agree that after observing the bruise on Ms. Phillips' chest from the domestic incident on February 22nd, you did not photograph it?
I did take no photographs of Miss Phillips.
And you have the option of calling in a female deputy if photographs do need to be taken of a female victim, right?
That would be one possibility if need to be.
You also have the option of taking a female victim to a hospital for a medical examination. Is that correct?
It's also accurate.
You agree that you didn't ask Ms. Phillips about the extent of her other injuries that she sustained on February 22nd of 2019?
I believe that Miss Phillips gave me an accurate, or what she gave me was the injuries that she had apparently occurred that night.
You didn't ask if she wanted to be seen by a forensic nurse or a physician to document the extent of the injuries that she suffered?
No, I did not.
At any point, did you or another investigator follow up with Ms. Phillips to see if she had any bruising or other injuries emerging in the dates after February 22nd?
I don't believe that any other investigator would have followed up on that.
And investigator, you agree that survivors of domestic abuse sometimes minimize that abuse?
I would agree that that is an accurate statement.
And that sometimes a person who's being physically abused is inclined to protect their abuser?
Also accurate.
And not everyone responds the same way to trauma, right?
Everyone responds differently to trauma.
And in a case like this, Ms. Phillips, or let me just ask you this, Ms. Phillips said out loud that Mr. Phillips had never punched her. Is that correct?
Yes.
Am I also correct in assuming that you didn't follow up with Ms. Phillips and ask, what else did he do other than punching you?
Did I ask Miss Phillips,
What?
when she said that he didn't punch her, did I follow up with did he do anything else?
Yeah, did you follow up to see whether or not her definition of domestic abuse was, punching in the traditional sense?
No, I guess I'm kind of
Sure. Let me back up. Different people can define domestic abuse different ways, right?
sure. Yes, I'm accurate.
And Ms. Phillips gave you the example of punching is something that didn't happen, right?
Correct.
But she did give you the example of choking or strangling as something that did happen.
That night, yes.
And certainly strangulation or choking qualifies as domestic abuse, right?
Yes.
She also indicated that things had become, quote, physical in the past. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you agree that you didn't follow up with Ms. Phillips to determine what she meant when she said that things had become physical in the past?
I believe Miss Phillips told me that he never punched her before or hit her before.
Okay, but I'm asking, when she said things had become physical, you're agreeing that you didn't say, well, what do you mean by physical?
Yes, I guess I didn't ask that question.
And you didn't ask her how frequently the physical acts of abuse occurred?
I think she stated that there has been other physical. I didn't ask her specifically how often it occurred. Was that your question?
Correct.
Yes, I didn't ask her how often it would have, that type of incident would have occurred with them.
All right. So I want to follow up a little bit on what was testified to earlier as to, who's kind of in charge. And your testimony is that there's really not an officer in charge, so to speak, that you all work as a team.
Yes, that's how, at the time of this incident, that's how it would go. There wasn't necessarily a lead investigator that would be classified as the lead investigator. Some people do more, I guess, interviews, we'll call them, or have more responsibilities within it. But we typically would answer to the head of our department, which would be the captain, who would then be giving direction in one way or another. I believe that I would have done probably more interviews and things involving this case than other investigators. But I guess if you're asking to the definition of the lead investigator, I don't think that at that time, that's not how things were conducted with the sheriff's office.
If somebody was ultimately responsible for what happens in an investigation, in this case, would that have been Captain Zimmerman?
I don't know if I'd say if there was ultimate responsibility in that sense, but I think that, again, we're working together as a team. Decisions are made. Sometimes there's decisions made outside the presence of the captain that would then be debriefed back to the captain of what would have been when found, or, say I'm doing an interview, and in that interview, that person would give me another name to follow up on, and I would go follow up on that and then report back to Captain Zimmerman. So it wouldn't be, so I guess you're trying to point blame on.
Did you have regular meetings to coordinate what each of you were doing in the course of this investigation?
I would say we had daily conversations regarding this, which we did with most of the cases at that time frame.
And you were aware at the time that the 2019 Dodge Ram was basically a brand new truck, right?
Yes.
Had been purchased in December of 2018.
I guess I'm not aware of when it was purchased, but it was 2019, and it was early 2019. So.
And this is far from your first case involving a motor vehicle as part of your investigation, right?
Yeah, I would say it's not my first case involving a motor vehicle.
And you're aware that newer model vehicles like the 2019 Dodge Ram commonly have devices to record pertinent vehicle data prior or during operation.
Yes, that's correct.
And you're actually able to download that data from vehicles to give you clues as to how a vehicle is operated. Is that correct?
Could be more specific than that.
Meaning that, were you aware that Captain Zimmerman was in touch with Wisconsin State Trooper Marquardt of the accident reconstruction unit?
Yes.
And that he and Trooper Marquardt had discussed downloading all of the electronic vehicle data from the 2019 Dodge Ram?
Yes, I was aware of that conversation.
And you knew that the State Patrol, the accident reconstruction specialists anyways, have the devices that they can download this vehicle data to use in an investigation.
Yes.
And all you need is either a consent or a search warrant to obtain that data. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in this case, you're aware that Captain Zimmerman was looking at this data as potentially helpful for a number of different reasons, right?
Yes.
For instance, it would show whether or not the vehicle was malfunctioning at the time of the operation. It would show the DTC codes.
Yeah, as I'm not all familiar with what the download dump of a vehicle would be. I'm aware of certain things that have to activate alerts or that such type of behavior in a vehicle, such as an airbag deployment, sudden heavy braking, possibly along those lines.
Okay. So notification of some sort of a collision is some of the data that you would look for in this type of download.
A significant collision, yes.
And Captain Zimmerman was looking at obtaining information from the door pressure sensors of the 2019 Dodge Ram as well. Is that correct?
The specifics of what Captain Zimmerman was looking for, I guess you'd have to rely on Captain Zimmerman more than myself. I know we just had those discussions, but the specifics you're talking about now,
Speed data from the vehicle when it was operated?
It would be part of that.
Certainly very relevant to determining what happened, right?
It could be, yes.
Acceleration input,
If the sensors are able to read that, yes.
steering input,
If the sensors are able to read that, yes.
hazard identification systems.
If the sensors were alerted to that, that would probably be a record.
And were you aware that Captain Zimmerman was explicitly advised by Trooper Marquardt that the Ram was equipped with a forward collision warning status lamp?
I don't know exactly what Officer Marquardt specifically said to Captain Zimmerman at this point.
Well, investigator, you actually obtained a search warrant from Judge Horn, I believe, to search this vehicle on March 19th of 2019. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Part of that search warrant was a request to download the data from this truck. Is that correct?
I believe so.
And certainly you or Captain Zimmerman knew how to get in touch with Trooper Marquardt or another member of the accident reconstruction unit to download this data, correct?
Did we know how to get in touch with Officer Marquardt, Trooper Marquardt?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
You agree that at no point was the vehicle data from that Dodge Ram downloaded?
Yes,
The Dodge Ram was also equipped with a specialty telematics system, is that correct?
I'm not exactly sure what that is.
So you're aware that Captain Zimmerman was speaking with members of the Dane County or the City of Madison Police Department to do a download on this specialty telematics system.
I'm not, I don't recall that. You'd have to ask Captain Zimmerman that.
Do you know what a telematics system is?
I don't.
You're familiar with like the flat screen integrated navigation music systems that people have in,
Yes,
not my car, but nice cars?
yeah, yes,
Okay. And those can track routes like a vehicle's navigation, right?
yes, they can.
It can show communications data if it's linked to a Bluetooth cell phone, right?
I believe so, yes.
And that could also be relevant to determining what happened here. Is that correct?
Objection calls for legal.
Sustain.
You had a warrant your warrant authorized you to download the telematics data as well. Is that correct?
I believe that was part of it.
And you agree that the telematics data was never downloaded from this truck?
As I answered before, it's correct.
And that truck to this day is still in the possession of the La Crosse County Sheriff's Department?
Yes,
Investigator Leinfelder, is this something that just slipped through the cracks when Captain Zimmerman retired?
no, I believe that Trooper Marquardt gave a response to Captain Zimmerman, as I recall, stating that it has to be some type of a significant event for the computer system to register anything such as a collision or anything else that would be attached to the computer program system when you're downloading. So,
Okay, and if you heard that from Captain Zimmerman, or you had that in a document somewhere?
I believe Captain Zimmerman responded about Trooper Marquardt's comments regarding things that can be made aware or made relevant to our investigation if we were to do a computer download.
And were you privy to any of the communications between Captain Zimmerman and Trooper Marquardt about this issue?
Again, I'm not privy with exact emails. You know, there was discussions that had been had, and to my recollection, that's what I was remembering that was stated by Trooper Marquardt.
And if Trooper Marquardt had indicated to Captain Zimmerman that he recommended a vehicle download and would be happy to do it, is that consistent with your recollection of the process of investigating this vehicle data?
I'm not aware of that.
The worst that could have come of getting that evidence from the search warrant of the vehicle download was that you'd get nothing relevant, right? There's no downside to obtaining more information, in other words.
Correct.
All right. As part of your investigation, were you involved in preserving video surveillance clips from the Phillips's home from the video surveillance system?
I was not tasked with that responsibility.
Did you view any of those videos yourself?
A few of them, yes. There was a video clip that I do recall viewing of Miss Phillips coming out of the residence that morning.
Okay, and I'm going to refer back to my flash drive, I believe was exhibit 4 maybe. Or five. I'll let you know when I'm ready. Just give me a second. All right, if I could get my computer screen up, please. This is labeled as under the video subfolder of Exhibit 507 as Video 1. I'm going to play. Okay, it appears we're all experiencing problems today. Let me try this one more time. That appeared to be one of the videos that you observed in the course of this investigation, Investigator Leinfelder.
Yes, that's correct. That's what I was referring to.
And this looks like Ms. Phillips walking out of the home, or I guess it would be the back entrance of the home, correct?
Yes,
And she appears to be walking in the general direction of where the exterior garage is that correct?
yes.
All right. Offer this subfile of Exhibit 507, Your Honor.
Can be received.
All right. I've got, this is titled Video 2 in the same subfile. I'm going to play that for you, Investigator. You recall viewing that short video clip in the course of your investigation?
Yes,
And it appears to be Ms. Phillips disappearing off screen briefly towards the direction of the driveway.
correct.
And you appear to be hearing Ms. Phillips screaming. It sounds like, "Oh my God," is that correct?
Yeah, I believe it was tough to hear on that, but I've listened to it before.
I offer Video 2, Your Honor.
Be received.
All right, I've got what's been labeled as Video 3 in the same subfolder. I'm going to play that. For the record, it looked like my video lagged a little bit. I'm going to play it one more time. Have you seen Video 3 in the course of your investigation?
Yes,
And that appears to be Ms. Phillips running back up to the house from the direction of the driveway.
yeah, you had a glitch in your video, but yeah, I would agree with it. That's had it not glitched, that's what it would be presenting.
And she appears to be screaming and crying during that run up through.
She does.
And then she enters the house.
Yes.
And it appears that she continues to scream and cry even after she's inside of the house. We could try it one more time.
Go. Yeah, I guess the glitch was kind of.
I'm gonna try it one more time. Playing. From what we were able to see of this video, Investigator Leinfelder, does it appear that Ms. Phillips continued to yell and cry even after being inside of the house?
Yes, it does appear that way.
All right. And obviously that's a reaction consistent with somebody who's just found their husband dead?
Consistent with yes.
Are you asking for that to be received also?
Yes, I would offer video number 3 in the same subfolder.
The objection.
Your Honor, no objection. To the extent that it's being offered, why it's being offered, I would request we maybe have a sidebar because based on the glitch afterwards and out of the presence of the jury, but no objection to what's been done.
We'll clarify it later.
Okay. We've discussed this already, but Investigator Leinfelder, back in February of 2019, the La Crosse County Sheriff's Department was not using body worn cameras at that point. Is that correct?
That's correct. We had not been issued body cams at that point.
Correct to assume that your initial interactions with Ms. Phillips inside of her home were not recorded in any respect then?
That's also correct.
Did you personally take any of the scene photographs?
No, I did not.
I'm going to cover a little bit of what I cover with Sergeant Valencia with you as well. You agree that the Phillips home is in a rural part of the county,
Yes,
and that on any given night we might, have between 4 or 5 patrol deputies on the road,
yes,
and that area of the Phillips home was within the primary jurisdiction of the La Crosse County Sheriff's Department.
that is correct.
And I assume that your patrol is divided up by quadrants or sectors to some degree.
Yes, our patrol division has what we consider a north, center, and south sectors, which patrol deputies are typically in those scheduled to the north sector. They stay to the north. They have a sergeant that will float. Sometimes we have the luxury of having what would be referred to as a wild car that could go anywhere in between.
Okay. And in some cases, a patrol car or unit might be occupied and take some time to respond to an emergent call in rural Holman, correct?
I'm not found occupied busy.
Yes.
Typically, if we have an emergency call in the north sector and the north car was already tied up on another call, then either the center car or the sergeant or the wild car would be then dispatched to that incident to assist.
And in those circumstances, it wouldn't be unusual to take 5, 10, 15 minutes for help to arrive at the area where help was needed.
Yes,
And under those circumstances, somebody who's calling about an ongoing attack is effectively left on their own, right?
yes, yes.
And one of the things that in your 30 years of law enforcement, you've worked with 911 dispatchers, right, Investigator Leinfelder?
I have.
You've certainly listened to a number of 911 calls, right?
Yes, I have.
One of the first things a 911 dispatcher will tell a person who's being attacked is to flee the area if they can, correct?
It'd be one of the, I don't know if it'd be the first thing, but it would be up there. I guess I can't answer that question more so. First thing they're going to ask is what's the address of your emergency, and then what do you have? So I can't really say much other than that.
Under no circumstances will your dispatchers or you recommend to somebody who's being physically attacked that they simply stay put and take no action.
No, that would not be something a dispatcher would tell them or a patrol officer. But again, it'd be through dispatch. Then dispatchers would not give that direction to anybody.
One moment. That's all I have for you. Thank you, Investigator Leinfelder.
Be direct.
Your Honor, before I begin, I would request a brief silence. When Attorney Zacher is ready.
Sure.
Investigator Leinfelder, I will, I guess, begin where Attorney Zacher had left off. He had asked you about response time in this particular area, about the 10, 15 minutes for law enforcement to get to a potential domestic violence scene. Is that?
He asked me that question.
Remember that question?
Yeah, I remember that question.
Is it your memory that Miss Phillips during her interview had indicated that at one point she thought she saw a cop while she was in the subdivision or law enforcement officer?
Yes.
Is it your understanding, I guess, where is that subdivision in relation to the Phillips home?
She had said that it was approximately, there's two different subdivisions down W. She had implied that it was, she was down 2 miles down from the residence on W when she thought that there was a law enforcement officer behind her.
And did she say anything about seeing, I guess, some other person or neighbor in the subdivision?
Yes, she had pulled into the subdivision and said that there was another, I want to say she said a white SUV, we'll say it's just an SUV that had pulled in and she thought may have been the police officer. She realized it was this SUV and she watched that vehicle pull into the driveway, into the garage, apparently right where she was parked within the subdivision is what her statements were.
Do you recall her saying anything about attempting to contact who she saw?
No.
Attorney Zacher had, I guess, asked about the driver download data and things like that. Do you remember saying something about detecting a significant collision?
I believe that's what I remember the conversations that we had regarding during some of the debriefings that to get anything off of a computer download, there has to be a significant event for it to register within the computer system.
So in terms of the data that would show up, I guess what I'm asking is, elaborating on that point, are you saying that it's your understanding that a significant collision is what would cause these particular data points to trigger?
Judge, I'm going to object, lack of foundation.
Sustain. Good.
Do you have anything to elaborate further on what you meant by significant collision when you said what you just said?
Objection, bag.
Sustain.
Have you seen, I guess, you had a chance to look at the truck.
I did.
Would you agree that the truck did not have any serious damage or indicia of a car accident?
Yes, we have showed numerous pictures of that and standing next to it and observing it, there was no significant damage, scrapes or anything that we saw on the outside of the truck.
In your training as a law enforcement agent, officer, what you've testified to, do you know or have you seen significant collisions?
I have seen significant collisions.
So when you personally use the word significant collision, was there anything on that truck that indicated that?
No, there's nothing on that truck that indicated any type of even a minor incident, minor accident. It was pristine as far as the body work was concerned.
So based only on the scope of what you testified to when you answered that question and what you know about the data points that you had previously testified about, I guess, from what you observed on the truck, is there enough of a significant collision to have triggered a data point?
Objection, lack of foundation.
I asked just for his scope and what he's already testified to.
Sustain. Keep on going.
You were asked questions about the diamond earring in the driveway. Do you recall that?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
You were asked questions about the diamond earring in the driveway. Can you repeat that? I mean, do you remember that part of your cross-examination?
Of the earring in the driveway, is that what yeah, I remember.
The driveway of the Phillips home.
Okay, yeah.
Based on your interview with Lori and what you learned from there, is it your understanding that the diamond earring was removed at the bar or at the driveway?
Lori's statement to me was that that incident with the earring occurred at the dive bar, in the dive bar parking lot.
You were asked questions about what you observed on Miss Phillips, her body.
Yes,
You were asked questions. Do you recall that?
yes, I do.
Do you recall being asked questions about what you observed in the interview?
Yes.
Did you observe throughout the process of your investigation or have any information that was brought to you after that interview regarding bruising, injuries, that kind of thing for Miss Phillips?
Ms. Phillips did not contact me regarding any, is that what you're asking me? If I was contacted by anyone to present injuries?
I guess, did you see any pictures regarding potential bruising after the interview with Lori Phillips that we saw?
Much later, I believe that there was some, but I don't know the context of those. They weren't presented to us, to me, anytime in a relative soon time after the incident.
So at some time after, though, you did you did see some type of marking on Miss Phillips, or what was represented to you as that.
I guess in preparing for the trial, was when I saw those.
But in the interview, the one we saw on that particular day, did you observe anything at that particular time?
I did not observe anything during the interview when she attempted to show me any marks or injuries on her body. I did not observe anything at that time.
You were asked questions relating to why you didn't do like I guess, a strangulation guide or some type of questionnaire like that with Miss Phillips. Do you remember that?
I remember being asked that, yes.
And you were asked about the details about this particular domestic incident and what you learned about this particular domestic incident.
Yes.
Recall that part of the cross-examination.
Yes.
Things like the strangulation guide and some of the details relating or the policy of your department. Why do you collect that data? Or why do you do it like that, I guess, is why I'm asking the question.
Part of the strangulation paperwork is because there's times when individuals can, injuries can be done to the throat area during a strangulation event that could come up later on, such as swelling that might not present itself immediately. But then could have a possibility of presenting itself later with possibly difficult breathing at that point or anything like that.
Is part of the, I guess, in terms of your training experience, is part of the training experience you've received in domestic violence, do you believe the purpose, or do you understand, or do you know that the purpose of that is to limit or reduce incidents of domestic violence? Is that fair?
Yes.
And is one way of doing that to remove the perpetrator from the area or the incident, the perpetrator being the person who has committed the act of domestic violence?
Yes, and that's by law, that if we have a domestic situation in which anything were physical or even disorderly conduct, and it fit the domestic relationship definition, those situations are mandatory arrest. So the perpetrator, the aggressor in those situations is typically arrested.
So when you
Would be
gather,
arrested.
are you finished?
Yes, sorry.
So when you gather all that information, is the idea that if there's an act of domestic violence that you would, based on what you just said, arrest the perpetrator?
Yes.
Was there any reason to arrest Mark Phillips here?
Judge objections. Well, speculation.
Sustained.
No further questions.
Recross?
Just to clarify, Investigator Linefelder, your remarks about not observing a bruise on Ms. Phillips, are you saying that your testimony at the preliminary hearing where you did describe seeing a bruise on Ms. Phillips was inaccurate, or you just don't recall at this point 5 years after the fact?
I think that I just recall during the time of that interview when she was pointing to her throat area, I didn't observe any injury to her. I believe if I had observed any injury to her at that point, I would have documented it, much like it's part of the evidence. If there's nothing there, there's nothing to document.
Well, you documented a bruise in your police report, right?
I'd like to see that again, if you could point that out to me and we could go through the whole paragraph there.
Well, and you said that you asked Ms. Phillips about the bruise on her chest, right?
I asked her about that.
And then under oath at the preliminary hearing, you testified that you observed a bruise on Ms. Phillips' upper right chest, right?
I believe that was a question that you asked me and I answered affirmatively, yes.
And you answered affirmatively because that was the truth, correct?
Again, my recollection of when I observed during the interview that I did not observe any injury to her neck.
Thank you.
Any,
Just
more redirect?
May I request Defense Exhibit 15, or 515? I am handing you what has been previously accepted and received as a Defense Exhibit 515. Is that the copy of your report, or your original report that we've been talking about?
Yes,
Previously, just a minute ago, you had asked to see the report or to see the quote.
yes.
Can you review that quote and respond to the question now that you've seen it?
Judge, objection, vague.
I agree.
Can I read the paragraph?
Well, can you review your report and then as it relates to what you observed on Ms. Phillips' chest during that interview, can you answer that question?
So Ms. Phillips, during the questioning, was unsure if there was a mark there or not because she was wearing the same clothes. I asked her about the bruise. My statement is, I asked Lori about the bruise on her upper chest and she said yes. So I was asking her, she said that there was a bruise. I was asking about the bruise, which she said yes. I'm not saying that I observed a bruise on her at that time.
I'm handing that exhibit back to the clerk and I have no further questions.
Recross?
Just very briefly, can I get back? All right, I'm going to publish page 43 of Exhibit 516, which is a certified transcript from the preliminary hearing. And I'm just going to ask to confirm here that this was your testimony, Investigator Landfelder. I asked you the question, quote, when you spoke with Ms. Phillips, you were able to observe a bruise on her upper right, I guess, chest area, end quote. And your response was, quote, I did observe that, yes, end quote. Is that correct?
As I said before, yes, that's the way I answered your question during the preliminary hearing.
No, Judge, I don't have anything further.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Step Down. We're close enough to 4:30. It's been a long day. If you can be here at the same time, 8:30, 8:45, we'll start. I will say that we might go a little bit later tomorrow, trying to get more of this done so we can get done in time on Friday. I hope you all understand it's taking a little bit longer than we thought. And so, but I'm trying to avoid some other circumstance in the future for him. So please don't talk about the case with anybody. Don't look at the newspaper. Don't look at any type of media because there is some out there, I'm guessing. Also, I said this before, but it's really important. Do not look at internet or anything about any of this information. Only information in this courtroom. I know when a day gets on, you get curious, but that's something you can talk about during the deliberations. And I'd ask you, please follow those rules because, as you can see, there's a lot of work just to get to this point. So, all right, have a good evening. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thanks for watching with me. Please like, share, and subscribe.